as well. We also have the dedicated QA session in the end.
Okay.
Yes, Vaishnavi, over to you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. My screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
I want to keep it kind of interactive, not a lot of interactive, but a bit so that I will get an idea. Okay. So, okay, let's start with the session then. So, hi, I'll just introduce myself first. So, I'm Vaishnavi. I'm a front-end developer. I've been working on front-end various libraries and frameworks and all those things. So, today we will be looking into the Webpack Parcel. What are these? What actually React app is? What is happening behind it? How do we see those application working on our UI and all those things? So, before starting that, I would like to know a bit more about the audience. So let me know, are you like just single thing, are you familiar with chairs? Yes, no, you can just put it in chat so that I can get idea how much should I actually dig deep in, what are things I can avoid. So if you are aware about chairs, then have you worked on any technology, like anything, Angular, React? If yes, what thing you have worked on? Okay, Vue.js, we have React, we have Node, we have good. Right. Okay. Okay. So I could see a lot of people have already worked on React. They do have some basic idea about React. We are okay with it. And even if you don't have, still, it's fine. Okay. I'm working on Angular. I'm learning. Great. Okay. So I'll give for those who are not aware about it, I would like to give you a just brief idea. React is a library, so it has been created for your to improvise your development experience. The way you create your UI application, web applications to be more easier. So that's why we brought React library into place. So and most of this React, Angular, all of they work on single page application thing. So single page application means you have just one website. For example, you have Facebook and all those things. In that Facebook, you might be having one page of timeline. Somewhere you might be having friend requests. Somewhere you might be having chats and all those things. So what happens in here is like when you had this older application, you even if you make a small change, that whole thing was getting re-rendered. Now we don't have to do that. We have simple small components, which components means again self-contained piece of code, which is used in UI. So we create the small components and they get rendered on the UI, and that's how your SPAs are created. You don't have to re-render the whole page again and again. That's what, just a basic idea about UI, JS, SPAs, and React. React, of course, we'll be going dig into. Okay. So, what are we going to cover in today's session? What is the actual agenda? So, first, we are going to actually understand what React, what exactly it is, what is library, what is framework, why we call React as a library but not a framework. And we'll be doing less talk, more coding. There will be direct hands-on. We'll be creating a simple React application just by using CDN, nothing else. So then we'll be supercharging React with Webpack and Parcel. These are superheroes for our today's session. So we have Webpack and Parcel. How do we integrate them? What is the purpose of it? Then we'll be looking at what all are the benefits it provides, why we actually need them. If we think React is thing that we are actually creating, React application is what we are creating, then why do we actually need Webpack and Parcel? What's their purpose? Then we'll have a Q&A session. You can actually ask questions in between also. Yeah, if it goes with the topic, I'll cover it then and there itself. And there are some bonus round, like some interesting facts, some fun things that I'll be showing to you. So yeah. Now, before starting with this whole thing, if you have worked on React, if you have ever created React application, you mostly start with something called CRA. We have a library which is CRA. create React app. So you just have to execute one command and that library creates the whole setup for you. Now that library creates one index file, HTML file, some config files, and you don't know what exactly is happening over there. You don't know where that whole thing is rendering. Why that when I save my code, why how automatically it just changes on the UI. I don't have to even have to refresh all those things, right? How did that happen? You don't know. And later, if you want to do some environment specific things, you don't know how to change that because that whole thing's pre-built for you and you don't know what is happening in behind. To avoid that, we will not be directly creating a React application using CRA, but we will be manually putting everything. But that too in a very easy. So that too in a very easy format. Okay. So let me go with next thing. Just a second. Okay. Now, what is React? Is it really? So Jordan Walk actually created React, and React is nothing else. It's just two files, React and React DOM for web application. So React was built with a philosophy that we should be able to manipulate DOM using JavaScript. That was the costliest operation. What does it actually mean? So if you remember our old applications where we just use simple JavaScript and HTML files there, what used to happen if you make a small change? The whole page needed to be re-rendered. Whole thing was to be built. Got whole thing should get refreshed, right? But that is the actually costliest operation. To avoid that, React came into place, and that's where virtual DOM plays a role. Now, what virtual DOM is, it's not something they have introduced. Virtual DOM was already there. They have just uplifted the functionality of virtual DOM. You have a DOM. DOM is document object model. Whatever you see on the UI, that is saved in this DOM. It's an object. Okay. Now, a virtual DOM, a replica of it created along with some changes. Then some reconciliation happens, and you see, okay, this small thing has been changed. Only that particular part get replaced, not the whole screen refresh. So the main purpose of React was to reduce this costliest operation of manipulating DOM. Okay. Um. Now what? This I said, right? There are only two files. Which are these two files? So one is React Dev, and another one is React DOM.development. Okay, so what is React development and what is React DOM.development file? So here, if you see, React development file, it's just the core file of React. What all logic that you actually use on React? If you have actually worked on ever React, you know there are some hooks over there, right? So there is something called use state hook. So you see, there is a function created. All of these hooks that we use state, use effect, use ref, all of these functions
Vaishnavi,
are
can
written
you
over here.
enlarge the fonts for the help?
Sure. Is this okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just a second. One second. Okay, yeah. So, if you see, we have all of these hooks written. What that actually do, that has been written over here. Now, this is your development file. All the logics that you actually use on React has been written over here. What use state should do, what use effect should do has been written over here. Okay, now what is React DOM.development file? React DOM.development file is something all the actions that happen on your DOM, all the different cycles that happen on your DOM. For example, you have life cycles, right? So component did mount, component did update, all of these things, they are written over here. So we have a development file. which is the core file of React. And then we have React DOM.development file, which is something works with the DOM related operations for you. Okay. Now, why two files? Why do we actually have two files? Why need we can merge them together, right? If we have just this thing. Now, the answer for that is React is not only used in web application. You can use React for mobile applications too. And there React Native comes into picture. This React dot development file, that is the core file. Whole common logic of your React has been written over here. But React DOM.development file, that is the file specific for web application. Today we are targeting web applications. So that's why I just showed to you. So what React? React is nothing but just the JavaScript file. Whole logic, what all things that you see happening on React and all those things, they are written in these two files. We don't need anything else. That's why we call React as at the end of the day, React, it's just a library. It's just two files. Now, what actually is library and what actually is framework? So framework means it's just a pre-established structure. You know, there are some guidelines, there are some conventions, it has its own environment, it has its own setup, and you have to follow that. You have to write the code in the pre-described way. We we cannot interfere into that. They have their own guidelines and we have to follow that. That's what framework is. Whereas library is something pre-written code, just small functions or classes or modules written over there, and we can just start using them. Example, Material UI, Bootstrap, all those things, these are libraries. You can just directly import them in your code and you can start working on them. You don't have to do a lot of setups and all those things. It's just an import. Same way, React is also just the JavaScript files. Your logic has been written over there in those JavaScript files. React is just a bare bone minimal JavaScript library, nothing else. Uh, this was just a starting. I hope we are good till here. Then we had a lot of talk. We did a lot of talking and all those things. Now let's start with coding. Let me know if my screen is visible, if the font is good for you. I hope it's
Can you switch to the code part?
second.
Uh, can you open? Yeah, it's better, I guess. But others,
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. So I hope this is fine with this. Okay, great. Now we'll be starting with creating just the basic UI application using Vanilla.js. Vanilla.js is just it's also a library. It was getting used earlier. It was built based on plain JavaScript, all those things. So we'll be first creating our simple UI application using Vanilla.js. Then we will inject React into it. So let's start. I'll be creating one simple HTML file. Oh, yeah, we have it working. Now it has been written just using plain JavaScript and nothing else. I I said that React is uh, just two JavaScript files, right? And these are those two JavaScript files. We are going to import CDN into our project. Okay, import React using CDN. What CDN? CDN is nothing but content delivery networks. It's a place where our React library is hosted. These are those two files, and these are nothing but the files which I showed you earlier. These files. Okay, so before that, let me just add some scripts, some basic JavaScript, and then we'll work on it. Okay. So I'll be creating a heading. H1 tag, some text, and render it. Okay, I'll just remove this. And have this. So yeah, this is rendering from vanilla.js. I have written some script, added it into HTML and rendered. Now what we'll be doing, we'll be importing CDN. We'll be importing React using CDN in our project. Okay, so just copy this, put it over here, save it. I'll be replacing them now. I'll be using here React. So let me create heading element. So we have this format, React dot create element, some element. Then we will create a root and we'll be rendering this. 1 second. We'll be rendering it. Now what this thing is and what it is doing. What we did, plain JavaScript, right? We can create a heading, and the way of creating heading in React is in this format. This is the way how your browser actually reads, okay? So whatever your React code that you write, right? H1 and all those things, it converts it into this format. So I'm just showing it to you from basic. So a new element is created. This new element, I'll show this method here. So if you see, you have a method. You can see this function, right? Create element. It has been written in your React development.js file. And there it takes 3 parameters, type, config, and children. So now what that are? It's my H1 tag type. A null config, it means you can pass your class, you can pass ID, all the other attributes over here. And these are the children. Children means what you actually want to render over here. Here, instead of this text, you can also pass another component inside this. If you want to create like inside H1, you want to put some another tag, you can create it in this format. This is how actually your browser reads your React code. This is how it looks like. Then you have a root. Now where this root will come and what this root is doing. What all things that you write, you need one source point, right? To actually get rendered that thing in on your web page. So that's where your root comes in. It says, okay, just get an element with root ID. I don't have it. Let us create one. Let's create a div with ID as root, and it just get element by ID with root and then render that heading inside this root. Okay, this is what we are doing now. So let me refresh. I'll also show it. So it says this, let me change the text. Okay. So here you see, right? This is H1 tag from React. Okay. Now there is one more thing you can see. Something like this is coming. Download React Dev Tools. It means you have imported React, and if you want to print the React values, you can actually print them and see all these objects. Okay. So it means your React has been imported in your project. I'll show you. If you don't use that, what will happen? Let me put only this tag. I'll just remove these things. This was our old code, right? Just simple thing. Refresh it. Now you don't see that. Even if you want to print React value, you cannot print. It means that your code regarding React has been imported in your project. Now, if you see, I have something called this H1 tag, and this is coming from React. How does it happen? So we have mentioned that everything that we are writing regarding React should go inside my element by ID root. So what all things that you write in here, what all things that you render inside root will be passed over here. Everything else is going to stay the same. That's why we call it as a library. We can inject that anywhere without interfering the existing UI. Okay, now here if you see, I can render H1 tag. My H1 tag is getting rendered and then div ID root is getting rendered. If we inspect it, we can see this is my div ID root. Inside that H1, inside that I have a span. And that's what we have added. H1, span, and my text over there. So this is how your UI looks like. Now what will happen if I pull this H1 tag and here? Can you tell me in chat, what do you think? Will it replace the H1 tag or it will print along with H1 tag? You can just put it in chat. What do you think? I would like to know. Okay, it will replace the H1 tag. Anyone else have any other answer? Okay, okay. Okay, yeah, you all are right. So what it does, it is going to replace the H1 tag. Let me refresh. So what happens for few seconds, I'll show it in different. So for few seconds, you will see this is H1 tag and then hello from React. So why it happens? Because we know HTML reads from top to bottom, right? So first it renders this, but when it actually calculates and start rendering your React, then this whole root will get replaced by your H1 tag in here. Okay. Okay. So then after this, what do you think? Only React actually can React in itself make the production ready app? What do you think? Like, is this code ready to push in production? Yes, no. Should we take this whole code? No. Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I could see a lot of no's. You are right. We cannot take this whole thing into production. This is not how your code looks like in your production. Your code gets bundled up, your code gets chunked. They minimize the code, they optimize the code. A lot of things happen, and then you create a build, a bundle. And that bundle is actually pushed into production. We don't take this all of things into production. This is only for our development purpose. Another thing on top of it, we don't write code like this, right? We don't go ahead, and if we have to write such way of code, we would never go to React. This is not how we write code. It is written using, like, we use JSX. And this is what the need of JSX is. Your browser reads your code in different format, but the way you write code is different. And there is a bridge between them. There is a compiler that compiles your JSX into a browser readable code. Okay, so if you see, I have a JSX, I have, and this, okay, I have a JSX and I have a code which should be readable by browser, and the bridge between them is Babel that we'll be introducing in some time. We also need some other compilers over here that will actually compile this whole code, that actually chunk this code into smaller format. If you have ever seen the build production, it's just 3 to 4 files, not these many files. Okay, and if you go and writing some more components, again, this is going to expand, right? We cannot take this in production. So for that, we need something called NPM. We need to initialize NPM over here. Now, what is NPM? Can you put it in chat? What do you think? What is NPM? It's a package manager. Okay. Anything else? Node package manager. I was waiting for this answer. Node package manager. Okay. Okay, great. So there is a fun fact over here. A lot of people think NPM is a node package manager, but let me show it to you something. NPM is not exactly a node package manager. It's a JavaScript package manager, and it is created to support different versions of Node. Okay, so if you go to their actual website on NPM and all those things, you will see, yeah, Monica, you're right. NPM is everything but not package manager. So NPM is not an acronym for non-package manager. So there was a bash utility, which was package manager, which was PM, package manage install. And it was a bash function to install various things on various platforms. With the same mindset, they have created something for Node. And if they actually want to make it as an acronym, they would have made Node PM or new PM, you can call it. So, and we use NPM to install a lot of different packages. Okay. Now, coming to our point again, we have something called supercharging React using Webpack. What is Webpack? Why do we need Webpack? So as we discussed just now, right? Our code was not ready to get pushed into production. We could not take this whole code into production directly. So for that, we need something called Webpack. Now, what that Webpack is, it is a bundler. It's a module bundler for modern JavaScript applications like Vanilla, Vue.js, React, all those things, right? So what it does, it chunks the code, it bundles the code, it minimizes the code, it optimizes your implementation, it clears out a lot of things from your code which are not required. On top of it, it makes your code readable for the browser. All of these things are done using Webpack. Okay, now let's start creating our application using Webpack. Okay, so here when I go to Webpack, okay, I have to initiate the Webpack, right? So we have something called Webpack create new Webpack app. Again, this is a library which has been generated. So initially adding Webpack was a very difficult task. You have to manually install a lot of packages. You have to make some lot of config files and all of these things. Now we don't need all of them. We just have to initiate this package and it is going to create that whole thing. But we'll go deep dive for each and every file which is going to get created over here. So we want to start with ES6 solution. I want to create a separate Webpack file. I want to simplify creation of for HTML of HTML files for your bundle. Then let's ignore PWA support right now. Then CSS only. We don't need post CSS. Yeah, we want to extract CSS only for production. So we want to make it separately. And we'll be using NPM as the package manager. It created these mini files, right? What are these files? Let's go and see. So let's start with index.html. It created this HTML file. It's just a basic HTML file for you. Okay, nothing else. Then you have a Webpack config file. Let's go here. What is this Webpack config file is? What are things are happening over here? So it has some plugins, it has some presets, all of new words, right? So what happens is it actually understands or it actually creates configuration for your bundler when it actually create bundles of your application. Okay, so if you see here, you have an entry your index.js file should be entry file here. Okay, this is what your index.js file is. Then you have something called output. So when you create a bundle, it should get saved in this dist folder at your directory location. Your dev server is your local host. You have some plugins. If you want to actually install some plugins, these are used a lot of times. These plugins are used for understanding JSX, creating bridge between your React, your browser, some different types of files, JSX files, CSS file, HTML files, a lot of things which comes in here. Okay, if we now we are not doing that, then there is something called module, and this module has some rules. What these rules are, and what all these things are. So you have different types of file. You have JS, JSX file, CSS file, asset file, all of these files, right? Now, if you see, we have something called Babel loader. What is Babel loader? So for that, let's go back. First, understand what is Babel. Babel is the JavaScript compiler. It transforms your modern JavaScript code into older and compatible version. So your browser does not read JSX. Browser cannot understand JSX. Your browser understand the plain JavaScript, okay, which you were which you used to write earlier. Now it doesn't understand that. Okay. So this Babel comes into picture to transform your modern JavaScript code into older and compatible version. It's a transpiler. Okay. And why we need? Because we have different types of files which needs to get transpiled for your browser. We have different type of presets, plugins, all those things will be coming in here, and this is part of that. What is Babel loader? It's a bridge between Webpack and Babel. So whenever you are going to use Webpack, you need to install Babel loader. If you don't use Webpack, you don't need that. It creates a bridge between what all things that you write inside Webpack, what all things that you write inside Webpack config that should be understandable by your browser again. So this is the bridge between your Webpack and Babel. Then you have CSS. CSS loader is for your browser to understand CSS. Then you have asset. Now, for all the different asset types, which are your SVGs, PNGs, JPEG, they will be treated differently in your Webpack. They won't be treated as your other JS and all those files. That's why we need this. Then there is something called is production. So here, if you see, what Webpack does, if you remember, we had a question, do we want to extract CSS into a separate file? And we said yes, only for production. So that's where it checks for what environment right now you're working on, whether it's a production, whether it's a development. Sometimes what happens is you have different requirement for development and different kind of requirement for production. So the implementation is kind of different. The backs behind what happens in your application. Okay, so for that, you have something called is production, and based on is production, what I did, I wanted to extract CSS separately, and this is what the plugin is for extracting CSS separately. So if it's a production, then extract it, or it's just go ahead. You don't need that. Okay, that's what we have right now. Then it created package.json. So in package.json, we have name, description of the uh, application and all those things. Then we have something called dev dependencies. So what is this dev dependencies? So in this dev dependency, we see Babel loader, CSS loader. These are things we used, right, in our Webpack config file. So these are those things which are imported. These are the packages. We have something new, Babel core. So what's the core? It's the heart of your Babel. It's the actual compiler that passes and transforms and generates all the JavaScript code for you. Okay, so this is the core of Babel transpiler. Then you have something called Babel preset environment. Now, Babel preset environment automatically configures your Babel based on your target environment. So you don't use this Babel not on only on browser, but you can use them in your Node.js, right? When you actually work on backend, you have Node. So what it does, it automatically configures based on the target environment, and it's a preset that we should be passing it. Okay, it means that it groups together set of some Babel plugins and makes configuration easier. Okay, then other than that, we have seen them. These are the Webpack packages which are used for Webpack CLI, and Dev Server. Okay, then we have something called Babel config file. It's just a configuration for your Babel. What all plugins you have, what all presets you have, you just have to list them over here, and you can see all of them listed. Then you have index.js. That is what we saw just now. It's just a console line. But in package.json, we saw something as build, serve, watch. What is this? Let's start. Let's execute this command, npm run serve. What it does? Oh, it executed something, but it gave us an error through. What that error is, it cannot find this thing, right? They are using it, but it cannot find. So let's install it. Install. Now, what is the save diff? Why do I use the save diff? What's the purpose of it? And we also see something called dev dependencies here. What are those? So we have something called dependencies and dev dependencies. What are things required for your development environment will be in your dev dependencies. What are things that you will be taking into production? Those will be part of dependencies. Now, this Webpack, Babel, all the transpilers, all of these loaders, we don't need them in production. Why we don't need them? Because we create bundles, and these bundles, okay, we create bundles, and these bundles are already created in such format that your browser can read them. Okay, I'll show you those bundles, but your browser should be able to read those files. That's where that whole bundling thing comes up, right? And since the bundle is created with your browser compatibility code, you don't need them over there. Okay, you just have to put them into dev dependencies. Okay, whenever I'm going to do some development, I just want these dev dependencies. Don't take them into production. I don't need it over there. So that's why this comes into picture. Let's install that and let's execute the command again. 1 second. Okay, let me just delete this. It's contracting with that. I'll open. I guess there's some contradiction in the files. I'll create a new folder. 1 second. One second. Okay, great. Yeah, there was some contradiction in the files which I created earlier in this. So we got this error again, right? Let me install this thing back. Yeah, I'll start the application. What the NPM serve was, uh, what it does, it starts your application. What all things that we have written over here, it makes this as an entry point for you, renders your dev server on the local host, and you can see your application running over here, right? Now it says hello world, and it also says check your console. Let's go and check our console. Okay. Oh, we have something this coming. And where is it coming from? It's coming from here. So what you're doing, you have now an application running with Webpack and some UI code. You have added Babel. Now, what all things that you write will get transpiled to which your browser can understand. So we have just basic HTML and we have index.js and it's coming from here. This is your source file. Okay. Now, if I want to actually add, like all of this thing has done, right? So, oh, we saw a lot of things now. Now, I want to inject React. What is React is going to do here? So, let us install React into our project. How we are going to do? The way we always do. Let's do npm install React and React DOM. We need React as well as React DOM. React DOM for our document object thing since we are using web application. Now I have an index.js file. So let's import React here. Let's also import React DOM. It should be imported from React DOM client. Then I'll be creating an app. Okay. Then let's create a root. Get element ID. DOM. Let's create root, which is nothing but document.getElementID by root, and let's render the root. You remember this code? This is the same that we did some time back. Okay, so I have written all of these things, right? But we don't have root index.html. Oh, do we need to import that? Yes. Let's add div id root, and it's there. Okay, now what will happen? This root, everything inside this app will be passed over here. Let's create app.js file too. So what things we did? We just added a divide root. We replace in this divide root. I want some. I have imported React, and that React is actually going to render app.js. These are the basic changes that we did, right? There are some minor things that you need to add for your Webpack and your Babel to understand that you're going to work on React. Now in React, we use JSX, right? So we have Webpack config file. So let's put something. Let's add few checks over here for JSX file. I want to exclude. So you might have this JSX files in node modules also, right? So exclude node modules. I don't want them to be handled. Uh, uh, and we have something called options. And in these options, it's an object, and you have to add the presets. No need for plugin right now, but you have two plugins. One is preset environment and one is preset React. I explained about preset environment. It targets if it's a browser, if it's a node, all the different types of environments. It understands that, it handles that. And preset React, it reads the React file values. Okay, whatever things written in React, it's specifically for React. Okay, uh, all the necessary Babel plugins to transform JSX syntax into regular JavaScript are all those logic has been written into this preset React. Okay, it's specifically for React projects. If you are not using React, you don't need that. Okay, then just these small things, you make changes and let's install it. So again, we don't need this in main dependencies. Let's mark it as dev dependencies. We made the changes, right? Now let's start the application. Run start. We have this command, right? Okay. Now we could see this whole thing is actually coming from React. And we have all this React dev tools, all the render interface, all those things It means my React has been injected into the code. I could see that React is actually rendering code in JSX. React is able to read the JSX, what all change things that we have written over here. And how it happened? It happened because of all the Babel thing and Webpack. So Webpack actually uh, compiled this code in such a way that it reads your React, and Babel created a bridge between browser and the code that you have written. Webpack is used for one more thing. The whole thing that I was talking about, bundling, chunking, minimizing, all of those things, right? So we have a command, something called build. We have this build command, right? Then npm run build. When we created a build, we see this dist folder created. And this dist folder doesn't have anything else, only two files. One is index.html, another one is main.js file. And what is this file? What are these things? I don't even understand what all things are written over here. But these are the two files actually goes into production. Okay, this whole code is of no use for you. These are the two files which are actually going into production. This is what your browser reads. Your browser understands this language, not the one that we have written in app.js. And how it happened? It happened because of the Babel. Babel actually created a build for you, which is understandable by browser. Let's see where my this whole code lies, right? I want to see, oh, where is hello world? I have written that, right? Where does it lie? So let's see. Yep, hello world. Do you remember? I showed you something dot react dot create element, then h1, then null, then hello world, right? This is how it is. That's what I was talking about. Your browser reads this. That's why when we initially just injected CDN and we tried to render the React application, there we just wrote this, nothing else. So we have h1 tag, null as the ID attributes, and what all childrens that we want to pass in that particular tag is this. Now do you see what we were doing in CDN and how we imported that in React? So this is what it is. It's nothing new. Then we have something called create root. This is the root. Then render this whole thing. That's where your whole logic comes into play. And what all this? These all are things which are actually generated by Webpack for your browser to understand. And this code, this is what the folder that you actually push into production. This is what actually Babel does for you. If you see index.html, you see it's minimized. Here there are not they don't replace anything because this HTML is already readable by your browser. But if you see, they have minimized it. They have removed the extra spaces which are not required. Whereas in main.js, they did a lot of things. Okay. Now coming to our this thing. So what we did, we understood library, what React is. React is really a library. Then we understood what React and React DOM are. They are just the JavaScript file where whole logic, all different functions have been written. What should happen when we create element? What should happen when we use the hook? What should happen when we do some changes and all those stuffs? Then we saw a demo using CDN. Then what happened is we installed React and React DOM into Webpack and Babel created project. We imported React, React DOM, rendered the root element and built the project. We were able to do these many things. We saw, okay, what exactly is happening, what is chunking, what all these things are doing for you, all those stuffs we saw. After that, we have something called the tilde and caret symbol in package.json. Let's go and see them. You have this caret symbol. And what does it mean actually? What's the purpose of this particular symbol? Okay, so I'll show it to you with an example. We have this library, okay, NPM thing. So let's go with React only. Search for React library, get list of all the versions. This gives you a list of all the versions of React till now. It's a calculator, okay? How do you calculate at all those things? Now, if you see, we have something called version range syntax. We have something called caret symbol, and we have something called tilde symbol. What do they mean? It- Uh, caret symbol means it should include all the other packages, which are like everything that does not increment the first non-zero portion of your version name. Okay. For example, let's go with version 15. We have a lot of things in 15, right? Let's go 15.0.0. If I search for this, it's going to give me only one value. Okay. Exact match. But if I put a caret over here, it's going to give me all the different versions after 15.0.0. And what happens in our package.json is I worked. So if you see it's 7.26.9. So when I actually started, I started with Babel core as 7, but they do some minor upgrades, some hot fixes, and all those things are continuously done by these libraries to improvise. Then what we want, just stick to your 7 version of Babel, but you can increment in minor versions. If there are some minor upgrades, just stick it in. So that's where we bring this caret symbol. Okay. So, and there is one more something called tilde symbol. Okay, before that, it says like the increment till the first non-zero portion. So now my first non-zero is 15. If I put something called 2, okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to increment from 15.2.0. Everything in 15 version, nothing more than that. Then you have something called tilde. It's uh, it's just the increment in the minor range. So here you see 15, 2.0, 2.1, but also 3.0, 3.1, and all those things. If you put a tilde over here, you see, right? 15, 2.0 and 2.1. Only minor versions, very minor changes it handles. Okay, so I don't want my code to directly and abruptly take the latest version of whatever library that I'm using. It just go and raise only minor version, nothing major than that. Then there, tilde comes into picture. We can use tilde over there. So these are the purpose of these two symbols, and you're going to see these symbols in your package.json. Okay, then we have something called package.log.json. Before going to package.log.json, I have a question. Let me know in chat that okay, okay. Let me know in chat that do we push package.log.json in Git? Should we push this package.log.json in Git or not? Okay. No. Yes. Yes. Okay. We have Now we have mixes of answers. Okay. So it is recommended to push package log.json into Git. I'll tell you why. And I would suggest yes. Okay. So if we compare package log.json and package.json, what is the big major difference between them? So package.json has the major dependencies. What are dependencies that you have? They all are part of dependencies object, whether it's dev dependency or dependencies, no matter what. Now let's go for React DOM in package log.json. So what it does, package.json just says, okay, go with 19.0.0 and with a caret symbol. No problem. But package log.json says go with this exact version. Don't go anywhere else. Take your 19.0.0 version. If there is minor upgrade, it will tell you that there has been upgrade. It won't directly go and change this. Here you won't know if they just bring 19.1.0. You will not know what happened. And in that minor upgrade, if there was a bug, you won't know. Oh, why my whole thing was yesterday it was working. Today, when I did NPM install again, it failed. Why? Because maybe that minor version upgrade may have bug, and that is going to affect you, your whole application, and you won't even know what's going wrong. So that's why we have package log.json, and it is recommended to push in Git. Two, three things. One is you have exact version name. You have exact, okay, you have something called registry. So wherever you have that package, right, you can actually, yeah, Sai Krishna, you get exact setup with same package log.json. So you don't have to change the versions and you don't have to worry about it. So you get the exact location of your registry. You can actually download the tar file if you actually want. Then it also gives you the SHA location of that particular module. Then it also gives you a list of all the dependencies. What it does, when you do an npm install, it installs your dependencies, like peer dependencies, other dependencies also. Now, here, if you see for my React DOM, React is my dependency. If I just go and install only React DOM, right, it will automatically install your React. Okay, and that's why you see that whole node module is heavy, and we have a meme about that too. Like node module is heavier than anything else. So yeah, so it's recommended to push your package log.json into Git, and the only reason and major reason to maintain your version. When you do npm install again, like if you bring the setup back and you do the install, you will get the notification that, okay, see, there has been change in your package.log.json. Do you really want, it will install the latest, but if you really want to install the latest package or not, you can see that difference in your package log.json. Okay, so that's why you should push package log.json. It's recommended that way. Then we have something now. My application is ready. I am able to integrate React. I'm able to create different components. All of these things are happening. Oh, good, nice. But what about browser compatibility? Is your application is really accessible by all the browsers? What do you think? And how can I actually increase this browser support? How can I make my browser accessible even by IE? I know IE is depreciated, but still. So for that, we have this website, browserslist.dev. Let me load that. Okay, so what it does, it gives me, it is helpful to calculate like till which all web browser my application can actually visualize. Like we can see our application on which all browser. So when I put and where it is used in your package.json. So you have an object called browsers list. Let me go with the suggested values. So it's an array. It's an array of different values and how those are calculated. Let's see. So it says last version. What last version means? For all the web browsers which are available, for whether it's a desktop, whether it's a mobile, no matter what, for all the browser, take last two versions. My application should be available. It should be accessible by all of these last two versions. And if you actually take this, you are going to cover 77% of all the browser. It might be good, it may not be good. So what happens when you create web applications for government? So they have to make sure that it is accessible by most of the people. Okay, so maybe you can just blindly go and say take last 10 versions of all of them, and it is going to actually make your application accessible even by those browsers which are not even getting used. So IEH we have now, right? It's used, this version is getting used by this many percentage of people across, right? But it's our thing, it's our task, like what all people we want to approach and how much percentage of coverage that we want. Here we have something called query composition. I want to create different compositions. I want these versions of this browser and all those stuffs, right? So we have something called OR, we have AND combiner, and all of these things can happen. So let's go with the default value which gave us. So it says last one version and IE10. So what we do? OR IE10. It didn't even increase much. Let me increase. Okay, we could see this, right? Now, if I go with last one version, or IE10, then it is going to cover only 58%. Okay, and we can play with it. If it is greater than 1%, let me take, or greater than 1%. What does this mean? It means for all the browsers which are used more than 1% of people using it, I want them to be included. If I just remove IE10, I could see even Edge, this is also getting. If I just remove, you can play with it, okay? Just greater than 1% is this many, and this is going to cover 82%. But I also want to put last one, latest version, and greater than 1%, and this is that. So this is how you can actually increase the browser support of your application. Okay, it's fun to play with it. You can go and see different queries and you can see how can you actually increase what all things that you want to support, what all browsers that you want to support, all those stuff. Okay, now we covered these many things. So we added, we did a good application, a basic application, which is right now working for us, where we have Webpack, where we have Babel, where we have React. We have to install Webpack, we have to install Babel, we have to do a lot of change, not a lot of few minor changes here and there, add browser support, all of these things we did. And it actually helped me create a bundle which I can push. So till now we were here. Here we addressed Webpack. I will go and see if there are any questions. Does that automatically write that polyfills internally if I choose the last 3+ years in browser dependency? So yeah, so what it does, you can go through the different queries. They have list of all the queries. You can go and you can see how to, if you want to address this. Anupam, I'm talking to. So if you want to address, you can just check. Even actually, you can go by the later country code also. Okay. And do we have other questions too? What is difference between CRA and manual setup of this? Okay. So CRA in itself, CRA also does the same, but CRA in itself does all of these things for you. Okay. You don't know where my Webpack file is. Sometimes what they do, they actually combines them with their okay, OP answered. It's a boilerplate. So, and manual is something which you should do actually. You should be able to understand how manually can we add Webpack, because there are a lot of projects where you might have to add manually Webpack. Okay, they don't really prefer CRAs also. I have seen that in most of my previous applications that I've worked. Okay, so till now we worked on Webpack and all those things. Now let's go ahead. I just change this. Now let's move ahead. We are done with Webpack. Okay. Now what is Parcel? Why I'm talking about even Parcel? Why didn't we stop at Webpack? So Parcel is also a beast. What Parcel is, it is also a bundler. It also bundles your code. It also chunks your code, minifies your code, and all of those things. But it is a zero configuration web application bundler. Okay, you don't need configurations. We did that whole thing, right? Manually and all those things. We don't need that. We don't need all of these config files to change, add presets, add plugins. No, Parcel is zero configuration. I'll show it to you how it works. I'll create separate folder this time. 1 second. Oh, yeah, we have Parcel. Now let's talk about Parcel. What Parcel is and how can we actually create our React app using Parcel, right? So let's start. Let's initialize the npm. npm can we buy So we have a parcel, a package.json with name parcel, versions, and all those things created. Uh, let's also install React and React DOM over here. I have React and React DOM imported. Nothing else changed, only just the dependency has been added over here. Now let me add Parcel to this. Okay. I am adding Parcel as a dev dependency, and let me add Parcel. It is also a package, nothing else. Created same thing for bundling. So we see the parcel has been added over here. Now let's create index.html file. It will be same. If you remember, it's similar structure, nothing else. We'll have a div ID. Then let's have index.js file. Let's create a React. Let's import React DOM. Then import app. Same code what we have written previously, if you remember. Okay. Render app, and let's create app.js file too. Okay, what we did same thing. We installed Parcel, we created index.html file, we created index.js file and app file. These are things which we are doing everywhere, right? Now we have to make one small change, that is in your index.html. When you render div id root, add one more a script, and this talks about type module, and your source will be sarc index.js, and this is my source file. I want to, it should act like a module, and this is my index.js file where actually it should read, this is my source file, and from here you start rendering whatever you want. Okay, and just these changes done, right? Now I will just execute. See, your application has been started, and you can see hello world from Parcel over here. Inspect, try to render this. Okay, try to print React, and you can see all the React dev tools, all those things in here. You can read. It means your React has been injected. Again, you have JSX running over here. You can use this. It means that this whole things have been included. You created a React app without using CRA, just by using Parcel and very small configuration. Did you need that whole CRA thing, that whole such a big folder? No, you didn't need that. You just have to inject Parcel in your code. And this is what it created a build, right? This is what this is a dev build. Okay, it creates a dev build. It's a cache thing for you. So if you make some small changes and save it, this time reduces. Just save it and it is going to change. It's just a cache. What that cache is, it saves what all things you have already on the browser and what all things have been changed. It reconciles and then it re-renders. That's what happens. You make one small change. Okay. Hello world from Parcel. I am H1 tag. Save it, and you see that that's happening over here, right? It's changing. This is what we call HMR. hot module reload. Right, that's it. That's what we have for parcel. Let's create a build. Okay. npx parcel build. Okay, one second. That's not HTML already. Let me check the main JS. One second. I guess I'm writing something wrong. Mm, Not sure why it's failing right now, but it should work. It will create same build folder. Oh, it is created, sorry. So it was already there. So if you see, we have this build folder already created over here, right? We have index.js, all those things. This is what we use. And all those things are passed. But it's not readable right now. Let me check. Yeah, it has been created. So it returns your those things, right? Your function app, return hello, all those things have been added over here. And same thing. It's just like your Webpack. It creates a build for you. That build is readable by your browser. It converts all your JSX, all those stuffs into browser readable code, and it chunks the code, it minimizes the code, which is ready for your production. So your React is a library. Whatever you see on whatever you see or whatever you write, that is just the library, that is just the JSX code, and which has been created for user development experience. And then your Babel, Webpack, Parcel, they all come into picture for making your app production ready. Okay, so that's what we had. That's what we had for Parcel. Parcel was very quick. It's a zero configuration, but this has been like Parcel has been improving in these recent times. It was not that quick earlier days, so it's coming now. Okay, now let's go and see benefits of Parcel and Webpack that we have, all those things. So we have something called hot module replacement. So HMR, that's what I was talking about. You make some changes in your code and you can directly see that changes on your UI, on your browser without even refreshing the page and all those things, right? That's what your hot module replacement is. And it is done using file watching algorithms. This Webpack, this Parcel, they have their own file watching algorithm, which keeps track of every change in file. Then it recompiles whenever they change and renders UI. Okay. Then you have something called bundling. So if you remember, I have shown you, right? It chunks the code, it minimizes the code, all of those things, right? So it analyzes your code from start to the end, creates a dependency graph, and then it process, combines the necessary modules required, all of those things, and minimizes your code, put it into one folder, major list folder, and that folder is ready for your production. This whole thing is done using bundling. Okay, now there is something called differential bundling. It creates different versions. If you remember, we added something called type module, and there is something called no module. Okay, now what does this mean? So it creates different version of your JavaScript bundle. So there are some old browsers which may not support your this even the like IE and all those things, they don't support your new JavaScript things and all those stuffs, right? Then there is something called no module. So it creates a separate bundle for them, and it automatically get generated when you put no module for fallback over there. Okay, that's what we call as differential bundling. Then we have something called diagnostic. If I make some error, you might have seen this a lot of time on your UI. If I make some error, it throws error. I can see that. Let me try it here. I was trying it. I'll make this error, and we can see that here, right? Oh, it's wrong. What it does, it highlights the error. It also suggests you sometime how to fix the issue. It pinpoint the exact location of the error. All of these things are addressed here. Okay. So that is again supported not by React, but by Parcel and Webpack. So they are actually what supporting you all of this error handling and all of those things. So there is something called lazy dev build. This means you only need to wait for the page that you're actually working on. It means they have different builds. So when you actually create a build, right, that build gets created based on different functions. Okay, if you go and see in detail of the build files, right, the whole bundled file, you will get to know that there are different functions for different components that you have written, right? It create different builds for it. And then if there are some common code, right, it just creates separate function for it, not exactly separate, but it separates out in its own. Okay. And whatever the common logic, it's kept in another location, and you can directly use them. So it's like you have lazy loading, same way you have lazy def builds. Whenever it's required, whenever your page actually is working on that particular build, it uses that. Okay. Then we have something called minification. So minification you already saw. Our HTML was minified. We write that whole HTML in a proper syntax and all those things, right? But your minified HTML looks different. Same goes for JavaScript, CSS, SVGs, all of them will be minified. You have something called image optimization. It optimizes your images too. Whenever you need referencing the image file and all those things, you can use it then in the required format. So it is helpful even for that. Then these are two are very interesting topic. So code splitting. So what happens is um, whenever there is a module, this is what I was talking about earlier also. Whenever you have a shared module, it automatically separates out that particular in a separate bundle thing. Then you have, for example, in this image, you see you have dashboard, profile, and React Lodash. Then you have a separate bundle for React Lodash. You have a separate bundle for dashboard and profile, and both of them are actually using React Lodash. So this allows commonly used dependencies to be loaded in parallelly so that you don't have to do it, like you don't have to load it again and again. It's cached and placed it into your browser and done. Then your browser takes care of it. Your Webpack, Babel, or Parcel, they all take care of it. How to reload, how to do that, how to make use of that bundle, how to separate it out, how to actually and how to actually use them. Okay, how to minify them. How will it know? Like this is okay, this is repeated code, something like that. Now there is something called tree shaking. Okay, this is very interesting concept, and I like about it. And I actually like this concept for Parcel and Webpack. So, for example, you have two functions, and this happens most of the time. A lot of developers, and it's not purpose but by mistake. You write different functions, and few of them functions we don't even use, or else we were using earlier, but now we don't use them. So when you actually create bundle, this compiler, they know, okay, this function has been there. They don't use it anywhere across the code. So while creating bundles, they remove it. So whatever the functions, classes, variables in, okay, I'm showing wrong screen. Right. So this was for minifications. Sorry. So this was for minifications. Um, you see, you have this code. and then it gets minified in this format. For image optimizations, we can see and we can render different images. For code splitting, we have something called dashboard, we have something called profile, and then we have something called React Lodash. That's what I was talking about. This bundle is created separately. It is cached and it is separately into your browser, and whenever and wherever required, it get renders. We don't have to load it again and again. It gets loaded parallelly. Now, what the thing that I was talking about right now is tree shaking. So here, if you see, you have an add function and you have a square function, but in your actual code, you're using only add function. You're not using square. So Parcel and Webpack intellectually actually they avoid this or remove this code from your bundle. They don't keep it over there. They just clears it out while creating bundle, and what all things are required, only those things are taken care of. That's why your bundle is so strong. Your bundle is um, not lightweight, but yes, you can call it lightweight than your whole project. And you see very minified file. You see very less file. It's not easy to create very small files using when we have this much big application code, right? So that whole thing is done intellectually by these compilers. So for today, we were talking about Parcel and Webpack compiler, and these are those. Okay. So these are some of the benefits of using Webpack. We almost, what's the time now? We are 12:30 now. So let's go. That's what we had for today's session.
So Vaishnav, we have few questions
Yeah,
on the screen.
yeah. Let me know.
So we discussed this code splitting, lazy and suspense as well, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go with your flow with the question answer.
Okay, let me see. I guess you have answered few of them. Shall we include differential, no module bundler, option since everything is upgraded? Yeah. So Anupam, your question was like, should we include that no module thing in bundle? Right? So it depends on the application. If you are creating application, depends on the target of your application. If you are creating one for government, then it is recommended to use that. Okay. Then can we build size of both? Please also HMR in Parcel. I didn't get this. I didn't get your question about this HMR in Parcel, Anupam.
Sorry, I was just asking, what is the difference between the bundler size of Parcel and Webpack? So, is there any kind of a major difference? Like, is it like same with the uh, size, like KB or like?
There won't be major difference. There will be very minor one, but no, we don't have major difference. Okay. When to use Webpack and Parcel? It's totally your call, Ritesh, when to use Webpack and Parcel. Usually, like Parcel was not getting earlier used because it was not that very well developed. Now they are actually like if you go and see Parcel website, right? I have referred all of those things from the websites only, and that website is very easy to learn and all those things. It's very user experience is very good on that site. Actually, you will get to know all of your concept very clearly, and you can use Parcel, but again depends on your project and what do you want. Webpack has been getting used from very long time, but if you want to shift to Parcel, Parcel is also very great.
I think Parcel is also supporting HMRI. So I think
Yeah, of course, compilers are made that way that they should support HMR.
understood.
Yeah. So only the thing is, in case of Webpack, you need to install dependencies. Okay. If you go to Webpack websites also, there also you have a lot of things written. You can go through them. But in case of Webpack, it's like you have to install the different dependencies, presets, plugins, then loaders, and all those things have to be installed. Then you have to maintain your config file. All of these things are there. But in case of Parcel, they declare them as zero config. Okay.
Absolutely.
So they don't need all of those things.
Also, one quick question regarding like production build. So let's say if
Mhm.
I'm having the minified build and in production, I have some scenario where I cannot debug it. So is there any kind of option there, like in Parcel, I wanted to just like, is there any source map option Parcel to kind of plugs? Because in Webpack, I can see there is a source map true and false in the reset. Uh, should I get the same option in Parcel? Like, I'm just asking,
Um,
have you said that?
Maybe you can check that.
Mm-hmm.
It so you can actually debug using the browser directly itself. That's the best easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, if you can check it. Actually, I would say that.
We'll
Yeah,
try.
Like,
So
yeah,
I'll explore that and we'll try to put on the meetup page as
yeah.
yeah. That will be a better answer, I guess, at this point of time, Anupam. We need to explore that.
sure, I'll do it. So,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Another question from Ritesh: is Parcel allowed to do minor configuration if we required?
Yes, you can actually go to their website. Let me show it to you. So I'm referring everything from their websites only. So technically, it's a zero config for building your application. Okay. Then other than that, you actually want to go and make some changes, it helps you in it. Okay. So these all things are actually provided by them. What all I explained, they have way more than that. Okay, they have some native performances and all those things. And you can actually go and to get started here. You have a lot of things: development, code splitting, dependency resolution. If you want to add some more things, you can go to their website. Again, you can check everything, and they have support for different files, different type of languages also. So I feel Parcel documentation is very good, very readable, and it's easy. But the only thing is, most of the projects are not using Parcel right now because it came into later phase. And since we majorly use CRA, people start with CRA, then they don't even need the compilers, right? You can go on this website, you can see everything in detail, and very nice experience. You should actually, I would recommend to go to this thing. Even if you use or don't use, just go and just do some digging and you can see all those changes. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. One quick question, actually. I just wanted to know, like, let's say, uh, Parcel has something like kind of div dependencies, and Webpack is also having that same.
Yeah.
And
They are part of dev dependencies. They should be part of dev dependencies. Okay. We don't need them in production. See, you got the purpose, right? The purpose of them is to make your React application readable by your browser and make your React application ready for production. These are the two main purpose. Then they have some features for you, like HMR and all those things. That's what they provide to you. So that's why when you are in development phase, you need them. But when you are already created the bundles, you already see your code has been written in such a way that your browser is ready to understand. You don't need them again in dependencies. Dependencies are those things, like for example, React. React should be part of dependencies because you need them in your production too. When you actually, if when I saw you the bundles, right? When you saw that there is something, okay, let me just show it to you. I hope it's there. This
yeah, got your
is.
point, actually.
Yeah, right? So that's what I was talking about. So when you actually put this whole thing into production, it should work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And React is something is which you need in your production too. That's why it should be part of dependency, not dev dependency.
Like I have one like a real-time problem with me. Let's say I have one reusable component on basis of React, and one is like my React project. So I'm just importing my React reusable component library in my project only. So currently I'm having two dependencies. Basically, two dependencies in the sense one is like already built with my component, the React bundle, basically React library bundle, and I'm using my current project basically in my like actual project with reusable component. So I'm having React library basically two React DOM and React actual libraries. So basically, it combines codes. It increase my actual bundle size. So if any option to cut my that reusable components, or what we can say, like anything, like you told me the code splitting stuff. Is that split my code so that I'm using my single uh, React and React DOM collaborates?
Um, See, I actually, your voice was breaking for me, but you have some reusable code, and you have another repository where you are using those code, right? If I understood. So I would separate you in different way. Uh, Take all of your reusable components, put it into another repository, use them as the way you use Bootstrap components, right? Make those components reusable, publish that separately, and import them in your main project. That's how you don't need to write those code. You don't need to take that code directly. Take the package. In that way, you will already minimize the code of your reusable components. You will be taking them as a package, and you will use them in your existing project. So this thing is something like, imagine them like a Material UI or Bootstrap, where you have reusable components and you just have to import them, publish it, and use it. And you can do that if you are using it here for company or in your current project, right? You can do it privately on GitHub, GitLab. You can do that, publish it in private way, and you can start using it. That's why you will reduce the size of your bundles.
Understood. So
Yeah.
somewhere like I got that answer. But again, like I can like if my project is like if my reusable company is hosted somewhere in Git and private Git repository in private days. So I'm just like importing it my current project. And let's say my React project also in that complete React based application, and I'm using my React reusable component library at the top of that. So I'm assuming like like my bundle size is like double with React actual library and React Conca library. I'm just asking like, uh, is there any option to uh, cut that size or somewhere? Like I've just heard the tree shaking stuff in the bundle. So uh, what tree shaking does? I'm just asking like, is that same stuff? Should I apply it at the top?
Tree shaking is not something that we apply. Tree shaking is something which automatically your Parcel or Webpack takes care of. Tree shaking is something where you have excessive code which is not getting used. It removes that. But if you're actually using that code somewhere, then uh, then it won't get clear out. It will be part of your bundle. So I'm not getting your question correctly. Maybe you can put it in chat and we will answer them in detail. But if anything specific, you can just put it in chat. For all the
Yes,
questions
yes.
which are not answered, we'll answer them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey guys, if possible, can we have a group photo? Can Is it possible for to come on the camera?
I hope the session was useful.
So did we meet the expectations? Or we need to improve whatever your suggestion? We are happy to address those. You can drop even your notes or questions on meetup page. Okay, I'm clicking a photo. If possible, please be on camera. Shall I? It's a hard ask.
People are camera shy. A lot of people.
Okay, clicking. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So yeah, any suggestion for the upcoming sessions? We'll happy to take those out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, was a great talk by Vaishnavi, and it's like uh, she teaches like everything in the upside down in React and React bundler, how it how it should be used in standard format. I was like using it in my like existing project or ongoing projects, but like that actual basics and everything she cleared in a very nice way. She brushed up like she like uh, she explained everything in a very meantime. Trust me, like it's a valuable talk. And thank you so much, Vaishnavi and team. It's like a great, absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Anubhav, for
Anupam.
your kind words.
Thank you.
Yes, I am Ritesh Rane. It was really a good session. Literally means I just start my career in IT. It's 1 year, more than 1 year. I'm working as a React developer. Means specifically, I did not got a chance to work with a Webpack, but yeah, I am eager to learn a more about Webpack, and I'm personally doing a one project in which I'm going to use a Webpack, and this is a really a good opportunity to learn a Webpack here. And like my suggestion is to on a next meetup we should speak up on micro front end if everyone wants.
I'm also agree with this, like on micro content.
Yeah. So in the past, we had a session on micro front end as well. But with respect to the front end, no. Oh yeah, micro front end, we had a session in the past, but definitely we can plan again with a new set of concepts as well, new industry practices. Yeah, I will take that as.
And and OPN Vaishnavi, like one thing, we can make a session on like a clean code actually, like best practices. This is like a one thing
Mhm.
standardized. Yeah, so we can make a session on it.
Sure.
So where we can find the previous recording if we want.
Uh, I can put so on the meetup page itself. If you go in the past events, you can find it there.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, they are available on the YouTube with our official link. I need to get it handy. Yeah. Okay. So any questions? Any more questions?
Nothing from us.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your participation and time. We'll be coming back with the topics like micro front end as well as the clean code as a suggestion from this session. Yeah, we'll keep posted the slides, the code, as well as the recording on the meetup page. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put there, and we'll happy to answer there.
Absolutely
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you, Abhi.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Vaishnavi.
Thank you,
Cheers.
everyone. Good day.
Thank you,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Mm. Okay, latest update in React. Yeah. Thanks, Monica, for the session. We'll take that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Uh, Session test. Vaishnavi, shall we conclude?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll stop the recording.
yeah, please.